small caps or whatever, and basically kind of see the why of it. But there's a couple that are pretty interesting overall, and yeah, I'll go through them. So one of the ones I've been looking at for a while is Labs. This has been doing some pretty wild gains and wild moves, and specifically about the overall structure of it. You know, after making new lows, gaining back its major stuff, basically having the same upside move on a yearly open that Bitcoin did. You know, that low, higher low, gain in the yearly, continuation move up, breaking lots of highs to the left, but still failing and coming back into a lower range. The range to the downside's done. I don't see any reason for this thing to now break down and make new lows. It just doesn't make sense at all. And currently we're gaining back stuff. We haven't quite nicely tested 0085, 00085, so the July open. But the upside potential in this thing, we've got some major levels going back into the listing of probably, you know, even at the 10x from the listing price back in May of, you know, from 2 years ago. These are not unreasonable things comparatively. Plus, it kind of already telegraphed its move as it had a major fat finger all the way back up to April Q2. So there's not really any liquidity to take, so to speak. And I'll just check USD. Yeah, and also there's nothing to sell into as far as shorting. So there's a little bit of a negative in that sense that there's not liquidity to break and take to the upside. But overall, I think there's some good you know TA from it. And the big thing, that's what it was. I was just looking for my notes here. So the Labs Group is a community-driven cryptocurrency that transforms real estate industry into digital shares. The idea being to redefine trading sector of real estate. So, yeah, I think anything tokenized equity, I think is going to start doing really big stuff. And I think that's just one of the biggest things overall that we kind of have to look out for. Another thing too, I know it's a little memey, but Ape, I know whatever you want to say about the project, it is what it is. It's at a macro hold. It did its yearly open test back at the beginning of March, and it's been cranking to the downside really hard. The big things are actually coming out earlier today with stuff like Gucci, what was it, what Bored Ape created? Yeah, so the holding company, the people who created Bored Ape, the Yuga Labs, they actually do have a lot of potential upside because of some of the big stuff's coming out, which is, you know, collaborating with Gucci and other big brands, you know, from a fundamental perspective. So it's an interesting one to say the least. That's at least from my perspective of looking at some of these different things. CHZ as well. This is, you know, doing a major hold on a daily time frame. It also did its yearly open retest. It's got nothing left to test below it, even though it still is in a downtrend. It's making higher lows. Anything that has to do with football coins, football tokens, because the ability then for, you know, events to be driven by NFTs. You know, you buy a ticket to go watch a football game, right? And you get a ticket as an NFT. It's smarter, it's faster, and you can't fake it anymore. There's no fake tickets or scams potentials. Plus, they can create their own ecosystems because you got teams like Barcelona, right? The soccer team. They have an outreach of how many millions of fans, tens if not hundreds of millions of fans in the project, in the team itself. So if they can create their own ecosystems, like, hey, buy our token, we'll give you if you buy tickets to our games or season passes or merchandise or whatever, you get a 20% discount or 10% discount. People are going to start buying that ecosystem token. You know, I'm interested in like Bayern München when theirs comes out and a couple other things, but that's a little bit more, you know, what's coming in a sense. And so there's a couple things to look at with that. I think also from a higher time frame perspective, it's done everything it needs to do. The only thing it can do now is lose the yearly, and if it loses the yearly, just short it all to death. In which case, everything is probably making new lows. But I'd expect this to perform very well over the next couple of days or weeks, going especially into the next cycle. You know, there's some major untested levels, significantly higher. That would be pretty interesting overall. So Chili's is definitely one I'm keeping an eye on as well. And where was the next one? It was so I don't know if you guys remember me talking about XTP. This was the Tap. This is the provider like Crypto.com that's providing like a custody on, but it's out of the UK, and they have a functioning ecosystem. They have a token. It's a little bit of a sketchy zone right now. You guys remember I told you guys about this for the guys who've been around since back in January, breaking an 8-month accumulation trend, like this whole janky structure it made. And the big thing here is the but of what its potential is to grab to the upside. I have it on log right now, so you can actually see it. If I turn log off, it went from an accumulation dead zone to now backtesting a major structure. Any gains even gaining back the highs that it made, and you're looking at major structure retest significantly higher overall. And I think this thing could go back to 10 cents, especially if we could think Crypto.com can go back to 30, 40, 50 plus, which it probably will in the next cycle as people start trying to get more and more into crypto. But overall, I think, this is a pretty interesting one for me. It's failed everything it needed to do. It came back down to the major level. I'm pretty much a buyer on most things, and this thing coming all the way back down to even like 0.028. And that's the lows that they would have to test and lose for me to be, a little bit skeptical of the project. But overall, it was a big payout for me doing some smaller cap trades, which I usually don't do. The grind down has been great. Just giving better chance to accumulate a little bit. Try to rebuy some. Sold at some major failures again. So I'm almost completely out of it. I do have some entry stuff from much lower, but the upside potential, especially as this thing starts getting listed in other places, and it's a question now of where it's going to get listed and whatnot. It's only on Bittrex currently, so there's a couple things that can happen with it. It's still something to look out for. And I'm pretty bullish on the project, especially as it is offering like UK compliant services, custodial services, and a card that's connected to it. Basically Crypto.com, but UK. So can do a lot of stuff. And you guys remember, for the guys who've been around for a long time, my stuff with CRO, right? So the CRO stuff has always been really great for me. We got in really heavily back in the accumulation of the post-COVID dump, going back into like 6 cents and stuff like that, and it was still my best bag spot performing of the whole year, of the whole of the last bull run cycle by far. So that expectation is significant. The way I look at it is like if I look at that tap chart and I just go back to the the Crypto.com chart, we had the major move down, creating new lows from like the bottom structure, and I was like, oh, is it gonna die? Like, what happened? And what do you see? You see a significant gain of level that led to a max, a big run, even leading into the bull market of next year. So if we've already done that on tap, where we came down and created new lows, this kind of grindy, nasty low structure, all we need to do is wait for some higher lows, which is essentially what we're seeing now in Crypto.com too. Gaining back on the 8 cent mark gets me a little bit more bullish. But overall, I'm pretty positive for anything that's, even though TAP is a KYC and most of these things are KYC, I still think there's a lot of upside potential on them. As people are kind of like going to be looking for alternative methods of currency, since the stuff we have is pretty garbage in general. So let me see. Was there another one I was looking at? It was. I got a couple more that I'm looking at, but do you guys have anything? And I'd like to kind of open it up to you guys to see like what tokens are you guys looking at from like a fundamental perspective and whatnot? Because I'd love to see what you guys' thoughts are. Fundamental, technical, throw it at me. I'm down for it. So
I can start.
Yeah, go for it, dude.
All right, I got a little slide going. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys.
Ooh, a slide presentation.
Yes, sir. That's the plan. That was the plan. All right. Everybody can see?
Love it.
Good? Ready
Yeah.
to go? All right.
Yeah, go
We're
for it.
gonna talk about polkadot. I mean, in this presentation, we're gonna be talking about 4 different tokens. They're all under the polkadot ecosystem. Uh, anyways, let's get started. So, polkadot is founded by Gavin Wood, Robert Habermine, and Peter Kazaban. All right, and polkadot is the only ecosystem out there that's trying to solve the holy trinity when it comes to crypto, okay? Which is security, which is the most important thing is security for crypto, decentralization, and also storing data, okay? Polkadot, the main chain, handles security, while it gives other responsibility to the relay chains. All right. If we want to compare Polkadot, Ethereum, between Polkadot, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Cardano, I have just a little comparison here, just to show the different structure of each ecosystem. Just a couple of statements regarding Polkadot from Bank of America. Polkadot are using a new approach to improve the trade-off between scalability, decentralization, and security, which is the holy trinity for crypto. I'll report from the bank said they use something called sharding approach. Sharding approach, as an application grows, the number of application users and the amount of data it stores increases over time. The database becomes a bottleneck if the data volume becomes too large and too many users attempt to use the application to read or save information simultaneously. The application slows down and affects customer experience. Database sharding is one of the methods to solve this problem because it enables parallel processing of smaller database across shards. Any question regarding sharding? Good.
Go for it.
All right. Just some numbers for the market cap for Polkadot. We know it's a huge market cap, but I'm coming to smaller caps just to give you guys a general idea about this project. We have a market cap of about 7 billion. The fully diluted is a little bit over 7.8. Circulating supply of 1.17, 1 billion 170 million, with total supply of 1 billion 300 million approximately. All right. There are a couple projects that are they have promising, but that's quite a little bit more riskier than Polkadot itself, like Kusama. Kusama is like they try out things project before the governance uh, make a vote if it makes it on the Polkadot chain or not. So as Moonbeam, Kusama are siblings, is the pre-production environment for Polkadot. In fact, the sandbox allowing developers to test and deploy ideas that will or will not go to Polkadot. As a result, Kusama is flexible and fast. Also, investing in Kusama is riskier than investing in Polkadot. We all know that. We have a market cap of 283 million, full diluted market cap of 323 million. This is what makes it a little bit more lucrative, but it's quite riskier. Moonbeam, Glamour, that's another parachain of Polkadot. With this one, you don't have to do much. It already uses existing applications through Ethereum and a Polkadot that developers need to make as small, minimal changes for new project they're coming up with. This is why it's a little bit this is why I like this Moonbeam a lot better than Kusam. Okay, market cap around 228, fully diluted around 400 million. Circulating supply is 605 million of 1.1 billion glamour, about 50%. All right, so here, this is the needle in the polka dot haystack. This is what I thought the best project that's gonna perform overall. This project is co-founded in 2017 by experienced group of consultants and entrepreneurs who together have a wealth of experience in developing and growing high-tech businesses. Bruce Pond, Trent McConaughey, and his sister Christina Pond. All right. So this one would be Ocean Protocol is what I'm eyeing right now. It got a 220 million of market cap, 500 million fully diluted market cap. We got a supply of 1 billion 400 million. Circulating supply is only 43% of 613 million Ocean Protocol. All right. Just kind of a little bit of explanation between Ocean Protocol and AI. It's an ecosystem for sharing and monetizing data. It provides a tokenized service layer that helps to unlock data sharing, particularly for AI. It is designed for scale and use blockchain technology that allows data to be shared and sold in a safe, secure, and transparent manner. Ocean Protocol is the index project of the Ocean Protocol team combines a deep background in big data, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and data exchanges. That's the whole idea behind Ocean Protocol. Here, I know this is important to a lot of people, so I've just put in some concentration numbers of whales and investors. The next slide will give you a much better idea about what I'm trying to say. Wallets of what's been 1,000 to 10,000 have a 16%, 16,000 addresses. Addresses between 10,000 and 100,000 are 2,000. Addresses between 100,000 and 1 million, there's 334 addresses. They control about 16%. And so is 1 million to 10 million. There are 57 addresses and they have 29%. So this is something that, you guys talk about it a lot. If there's concentration, a lot of people are having a hold of this token. So this gives you an idea about where is most of the holders are. This is just a prediction for the next 3 or 4 years. Growth of the same sector, technology, internet, Google, Facebook, and mobile growth. Just trying to paint an idea what would happen in the next 3 or 4 years. This is highly unlikely to happen, but it's just a couple options for us to look at. All right, so we have some volume in the past 30 days for Ocean Protocol. It is uh, listed on a multiple exchanges. We have the worst day of volume on March the 26th, the 25th of 41 million, with a climax of 350 million on March 14th. So there is a lot of volume on a day-to-day basis. This is a 30-day correlation between Ocean Protocol and some major tokens. You want these numbers to be as close to one as possible. So it's kind of trades closely to Doge, Litecoin, SHIB, AVAX, Chainlink, or Uniswap. Remember, this is only 30 days. You could go as far as 60 days for us to give you if you want a much bigger picture of the correlation. All right, let's see. So what does Ocean Protocol does? It got a huge data assets. Data owners can share or sell data without having to move the data, which is ideal for very large data sets that are slow or expensive to move. Compliance. European data protection regulations require sensitive data to stay on Europe soil. C2D makes that easy since the stay on perm. Control. Data owners retain control of their data since the data never leaves their premises. Private data aids in research, leading to life-altering innovations in business since science and technology. For example, more data improves the predictive accuracy of modern AI models. This is what Ocean Protocol is coming up with next. It's compute to data right here. It can be used for data sharing in science technology contests or marketplace for selling private data while preserving privacy as an opportunity for companies to monetize their data assets. We know Polkadot is trying to is trying to become the one that control the Holy Trinity. But with secure, everybody's looking for security, private data. I think Ocean Protocol, it's gonna take care of that. Here, just a couple screenshots of what you can actually buy from Ocean Protocol. You can buy order books, candles, information that's not available to the regular person. Here, it aids in research for example, how to transport in poultry or animals or healthcare, sleep patterns, and this is the whole mission of Ocean Protocol. This is why I like it as a project, and this is why I would like for you guys to any suggestions, any recommendations as far as chart go. Let's see here. It's gaining some pretty. We're going to daily time frame. It has gained this whole block of very strong support here. If we look at the 4 hour, it's currently in an uptrend. Could be wrong. Yeah, it's doing better than most altcoins out there as far as price action. I think this thing it did 2,500% last bull run, and I truly believe just based on the research that I did to it, it's. I don't think there is anything out there that's close to what Ocean Protocol is trying to achieve. I'm just thinking for the long run, it still has a lot of room to grow, considering that it traded for yeah about $2. That's it.
Well, thanks, man. That's really informative. I didn't actually know that much deep dive on the Polkadot um, ecosystem itself. I have looked at Glimmer and Ocean before, and I think I'm glad you mentioned it. Is that because I haven't really looked at it in a while. That or Glimmer or what's it called, Moonbeam, GLMR.
Moonbeam.
Uh, yeah, but there's some interesting ones, and if you want, I can reshare on mine, and I can just kind of show you a little bit of like the TA I was just doing in the background while I was looking at those two things. So I think
Awesome.
it's a
Yep.
pretty interesting thing. Cool.
That's amazing. Come on, where's Discord?
There you go. So yeah, so looking at Moonbeam, a lot less information and data. From the list, it's still at the lows. However, if we just pop everything off for a second, just to kind of look at the overall structure of it, and again, I'm on log because I can actually see the movements. We're starting to get into an accumulation. This is absolutely an accumulation. We saw that on Bitcoin, on crypto, and everything. The move that has actually happened on Moonbeam is very interesting in the sense that the highs it made back on mid of February broke the previous highs and actually failed at some daily structure at like 57 cents. Since then, the downside's been pretty rough, going back down 38%. But there is some positive stuff going on, which is we're making higher lows from the low. We don't want to lose the yearly open. The yearly open's fully tested. Now you want to see some gain of level. The current weekly's been getting crushed across the board. I'd probably argue that the weekly is just a major level, which it is. It's a weekly SR too. So as long as we can consider this down to the yearly a potential accumulation for it, which is fine. At no point can we start making new lows under the yearly open, but that's across the board. The higher time frame kind of outlook of it going to major levels, I think that's reasonable since there's a lot of untested zones, right? You have a dead zone structure between about $1.10 to 90 cents, complete volume dead zone. It's solving problems, most of these things. Also going into, the $2.2 to 150, another major volume dead zone. So the failures that it had at the highs, not the nicest failures, but again, very clear loss of structural levels. Loss of the April Q2 was pretty, clear as well. And then by the time it lost its structure here, it was just off a cliff. It is trading more sideways and doing higher lows, considerably better than most other things are, just from that perspective. the thing is now you want to see some gains back, and I'd probably agree with your argument just on a structure level that as long as that ecosystem continues to flourish, it looks pretty decent to try and go back up to test a major structure. And from that percentage outlook, I'd expect it to come somewhere back into the failure zone from the end of the bull run, because it listed at arguably one of the worst times you could list a token, which is end of a bull run, right? Everything at that point, when you're listing at the end of a bull run, everything's based off market cycles. Everyone who invested in the project, that's why it listed at, it was at 25 cents and went freaking straight to $50. Like, the idea being that everybody wants to get out and get liquid, and by the time around about this time last year, everyone was looking for exit liquidity, and that's what we got. Exit liquidity dumped to the downside, so I'd agree. I'd expect worst case it performs at $3, so that's still a 10x from the current zone. April Q2, somewhere around this structure. But the big catalyst here being, the gain of level. Currently, it's losing structure. It's down 38% since its highs from just 6 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago. So the priority is still down. Looking at some overall metrics on that ecosystem, it looks pretty solid. Just from like an FA perspective, good team, good structure. It's testing everything locally. This might actually be the low in right now. I like this. These type of tests are beautiful at 35 cents here. So even locally, 35 cents needs to hold. I want to see some gain back of structure. And generally, you need to see the market improving as well. But the switch into alts, I think, will be led by a lot of these guys who are solving problems. And Moonbeam being a part of the polkadot ecosystem looks pretty decent as far as that's concerned. Looking at the 4 hour, it's starting to bullishly diverge extremely on the 4 hour without losing any major levels. It's literally testing its 4 hour structure to the dot. So the quick little gain here is what gains back the floor, this little loss, which moves us back up to test stuff. And again, across the board, this is any alt. We're seeing this kind of like, linear regression to the downside, and the change is gaining lost structure. Currently, it's still losing. It's holding the really important stuff, which is, down here, the really important stuff. 33 cents is the cutoff mark for me. If it loses that, I'm not interested until it regains the current yearly. It just doesn't make any sense. So I think this could possibly be the one that's, a big mover as well. But does anybody have any other opinions about it or what they think about Moonbeam?
Invert the chart really quick and zoom out. I mean, that looks like a perfect swing failure at the top, and then it's gonna dump, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. I mean, just looking at this structure here, where's it failing at, right? It's failing at the previous level, which is also the weekly SR. Like, it's literally failing at the level. It did that there. This looks like the swing failure of the failure. If anything, this is the secondary failure that gives you more confidence that it's going to go back to the upside. So it's a good observation.
Yeah, sorry, just bias check.
Bias check, dude. I love it. That's the best thing on this. Just invert the scale, and I agree with you completely. What's the level we can't gain back? The yearly open. It's a monthly SR. It's the yearly Q1, January, all that jazz. So I'd say that's definitely the thing that you want to see now. You want to see higher low. You want to see some continued failure, and I'd say it probably looks pretty ripe for a continuation move if we're expecting that alts are going to finally get some reprieve since they've been getting crushed the last couple of days or weeks, really. What was the other one? Ocean? So just quick chart of this one. Ocean, it did give us a little bit of a bearish div at these highs on the daily, which, again, not the best thing. But what are we holding now? We created a new low. We closed after retesting structure. The start of this little structure here, it's fully tested. That's the big thing to remember here, right? If that's fully tested, right, that actually looks pretty clean. At no point do we want to lose the current lows. It looks like it's bouncing at this kind of 32 zone, and it looks like it wants to run. And higher time frame, and this is the interesting one for Ocean. Higher time frame, after the lows that we created, in this kind of like midpoint of the overall structure, I guess you'd call 33 cents, right? What have we been doing in the last couple of weeks? Like, Ocean has been absolutely blasting it comparatively to most alts. The downside to this is that there is a lot of volatility. So from the high, we're still down now 43%. At the lowest from the high was a 51%. So if anything, we're looking for a continuation to start right here. We don't want to lose this 32 zone again. If we do, worst case scenario, this thing comes right down to the start of this move, which is down here, which is around 23 cents. If we do have a breakdown on Ocean, and if you're still bullish on the project, that's probably the accumulation zone that you want to hit. Everything below us is already been filled out. The worst thing possible would be to like come back down, do one of these, and do the under over. But that's the worst case of it going down. That's the only thing I can really see based off of just eyeballing some volume. That's a bit of a dead zone in here, right, in this area. Overall in the project, like upside potential and continuation, I think that's pretty reasonable. It already started making the move potentially up to April Q2. But I'd say that if anything, this thing might come down a little bit steeper before it goes up. I would like to see a hold here. This is a major level to hold. A better indication of that would be going back up. And I love Rex's idea of checking the bias, right? We created some structure. We nuked it off a cliff, bearishly back tested. We're coming back down. We've tested all this structure now. So the expectation is what? Higher time frame. Just look at this from like the perspective of this being like a 1 minute chart, right? What do you expect from here? If we're going to do anything, what do we need to do? We need to lose the local, structure around March, May. Lose this stuff. We just group these together and so I can draw. So what's the expectation? What could we see? This has been tested. This was tested already in this structure. What do we really want to see? Something like this, and then a failure for a macro move. But currently, what have we really done? Right? We've lost it and lost it badly. So that's the worst case scenario. I think best case scenario is that we have that, and then we have the orc down to take us to our major level that we want to see tested. And there's a lot of structure in there. What do you guys think?
I mean, if you just add back your lines and you zoom out to the chart that you were viewing initially, the weekly one, and you go back to the normal scale, and you know how we always talk about range plays. So the yellow lines are like the dead zone between the two ranges. Yep. If you look at the left, it's like the top range, and then you look at the right, it's like the bottom, the second range, and then we're just like moving in between the two ranges, and we regained the previous range that we were trading in. Like the yellow line.
I like
the yellow line, and because of that area in between the two yellow lines, it's all just wicks. Makes me feel like, okay, whales are just looking for like liquidity in that area. That's like their hot spot. So
yeah, and that's what I'm looking at mostly. I think the upside potential in this is still pretty massive, especially with given what they're capable of doing, like fundamentally. I just worry that this area here, this looks like a regain of the zone, right? We've rejected off monthly. Reject on monthly, and we're literally doing the higher low from the low we created there. The problem is if I just swack on like VRVP, and I start looking at it from like that perspective of like what's the volume dead zone, we've got a little bit of a volume dead zone like right below us.
Yeah.
In which case, that's it. At no point are we going to lose the yearly open. I don't see that happening. I don't see us even breaking, but you can almost see it like literally at the swings here, that 23, 24 cent mark, right? This area right here. That's where like I would probably be smashing the button, especially if we did an under over like that. That to me is probably the cleanest long I could possibly imagine to build a large position. So it's still potential here. If anything, I'd probably want to go a little bit sideways in this area. Just a little bit more grindy and nasty, and then kind of create something bad. But I think the Moonbeam looked a little bit better locally for longs compared to like Ocean, which, to be fair, if it's going to move, it's just going to move, right? It's technically back testing the level that we lost that led us to the low, right? We lost these structures. We lost these things going back into the end of 20 and 21, and then we bearishly back tested it. So we know that's the main level. What are we doing now? We're bullishly backtesting the level, right? Until we fail that, it looks like it wants to move back up. And that's kind of like where I'm a little sketched out by it, which is it's a little too clean. So, when it's a little bit too nice, it's almost like, I wonder if they're really going to give it to us. But again, it's to the dot, right? To the dot tests from the low of the bull market lows. So technically, if you think about it in this perspective, what does this low represent? This is the low of the bull market. We're regaining the low of the bull market. That's pretty bullish in my mind. So, but like you said, Rex, like if it does go down here, I'd be a buyer.
Yeah, I mean it's only a 200 million market cap, so I don't know if we will get like I mean that's when we do get the obvious plays in terms of TA, around this area of market cap. So I would assume that I don't know, in my mind it seems like a good play as long as the rest of the market plays out. So yeah, like currently as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and just looking at Ocean, I threw it on like one of the investment tickers that we're also messing with. Ocean was performing very well up until February, mid of Feb, and then it started like losing structure down. So if we start gaining back structure on like the overall, if we compare that to like say Bitcoin as an example, right? I'd expect this to do quite well as long as we hold the local level. Otherwise, we should see a flush out if Bitcoin does make the major move down to like 25K or something like that. I would expect that Ocean flushes to that like kind of lower structure as well, which I think that's pretty reasonable because then that collapse is what takes you back down to like that 23, 24 zone, that really strong accumulation area. But I like it, man. Great job, great presentation. Nasonic, really, really clean, really good. It explained everything about it. So fundamentally, I'm positive of it. Technically, yeah, it might be a little bit too early on Ocean, but it's because it's a little bit of a higher risk from the volume. But looking at Moonbeam, I mean, it's even got to come back, and I got to go on the daily. It doesn't have enough. Yeah, so even on Moonbeam, where's it failing, right? Where's its point of control? The point of control is at 56. Let me see if I can get this thing lower. So yeah, if you call a daily point of control at 56, which makes sense if you think of it from like that perspective. The lower time frame volume, it's below it, but it's still holding the local structure. I'd say this is closer to like its bottom comparatively. The bottom, again, it's all hypothetical, right? There are no bottoms, there are no tops. It's just it's closer to its bottom than it looks like Ocean is in general. But I'd love to see that regained. Like just do one of these things, and then it's gonna go. But I think Moonbeam also has one of those potentials to do some really dumb things, percentage movement of wise as well. So if I go back to like the daily, say, and look at the whole overall structure, it's a little harder to see, but it is technically failing right at its volume node, its volume center for the overall project, which makes sense, right? So any gain of 56 and it's going. That's the level that it lost that took it to the low. If you think about range structure, yeah, you can break it down into smaller ranges, but where it is right now, I want to see holds and I want to see some moves back to the upside, especially on Moonbeam. This needs to basically hold where it is. It's done everything it needs to do. It looks like it wants to start accumulating. What's that?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was wondering if you could just go over just the whole market cap uh, and the circulating supply, if that plays any effect on the overall price.
Yeah, so you mentioned on ocean, the circulating supply is only 43% of the total, and that makes,
Correct.
from what I've read quickly, is that it looks like it's based off of a lot of the tokens being locked up to be used, which in a lot of sense makes sense. Its fully diluted is at almost half a mil, and its current is at 200 mil. So there is that disparity that there's quite a bit that's still locked up and still not going into play as far as it's just restricted supply. And as that supply opens up, it'll just more supply means lower price. That being said, it's solving problems. So the perspective on ocean, it's a little bit more. I don't know, 43% seems like it's very high, and it kind of is. On Moonbeam, I mean, it's a top 200 coin. It's number 144 still. Circulating supply is about, what is that? 40. Let me think. It's about 2/3 approximately. So circulating supply is 605 million Moonbeam, totals a billion. So it's about 60% of it's unlocked. So Moonbeam again has more of it unlocked, so less supply to push price down. Yeah,
Awesome. Thank
but
you.
I think Moonbeam, and Ocean have some pretty good chances to do some stuff in general. And just looking at Dot, I mean, Dot's moving incredibly well. Yeah, it had its highs back in mid-Feb, but what's it doing? It's gaining back a major range, right? The lows from October. This was basically the highs that we had pre-bull market, and then we just basically cranked the whole thing down. Dot can still fly. I think Dot's undervalued as well, because the major higher lows already happened. And if I look at it from, let me just box all this stuff off and turn it off. We can draw. Turn some more data on. So, yeah, from the low it created, here's a good indicator. We made a low, we made a higher low, but it's lower on strength. So that's pretty interesting that we actually went lower here. That means it looks like it's closer to the floor currently than most things anyways. It's gaining levels. The highs that it created back in February broke a lot of highs to the left structure. So I think Dot has a nice ability to fly. Plus, technically, the yearly open's already done. There's nothing left to do with it. It's an older token too, so all of the volume in this zone is already done. And if we look at the whole, aggregate volume of the structure, where's it at? Call it at that 6.357 for the total, overall. Let me just double check. Yeah. So 6.357. Then we go lower time frame. Is it significant to the price movement? Yeah, it's pretty significant. Is that also a level that we've had before? 6.357. Yeah, it's been in there for a long time. This let me see, getting jumbled here. Yeah, so 6.357. That's been the swing low that we created from way back, anyways. And even some higher structure testing here. So this is a really significant level. If you can start regaining March, there's not really a reason to start losing it. But that's going to be the major thing to gain back. Inverting it, bias check, which I'm going to steal that, Rex. I love it. Bias check, bang. Does it need to go back up here to test the highs? Not particularly. It's from the high, swing failed. The structure created there. Failure, failure. If anything, what does it need to do? Wick got all that structure. If it does this move, I see that as very unlikely, especially given that a lot of that structure already happened. I think that low is December. The structure we had at 5.56. That's basically the highest I'd want to see it go, is do something like this. But I think at the moment you regain March, which is also the October Q4, shit. I mean, there's not really an argument to be bearish on it. It's done everything it needs to do.
Looks good to me.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a good overall thought. Anybody got anything else to add, or? Yeah, I definitely say that the gain you want to see. And if that happens, the rest of the ecosystem will probably go up as well. Nope. Yes, no. Going once, going twice. Well, cool. Anyone else got some? Well, thanks again, Nasonic and guys. Anyone else got some tickers they wanted to look at, or any type of smaller cap tokens that we can kind of dig through a bit? Nope. Yeah. So I'll just do a little recap on some stuff. So we looked at Moonbeam and Ocean. You mentioned Kusama. I haven't really looked at Kusama, but you said it was a much older version. So yeah, still performing quite well comparatively. The gain structure. I think Kusama can move. I don't. I think it's overvalued for what it is now. If there's better solutions that it already has on chain, there's still a potential gain. The biggest thing there would be gaining like $50, and it looks pretty good to do a major move back in like the 100+ zone. I think that's pretty realistic. But currently, it's just filling out some volume and some very old structure as well. And other than that, I don't really see a whole lot unless you guys see something else. I'll do a little market check too, just to see what's going on. Yeah, running flat, restricting. This is pretty nasty, but normal for this structure. Like they're just restricting price really badly. If you think you know which way it's gonna pop, let me know, because right now all you're getting into is a major low. It has me feeling a little bit uneasy, which means that there's probably getting close to the major move up. That's at least my expectation if we're going to do it. So we have some increase in bullish funding in this area, which is nice to some degree. But realistically, the long is that it's very easy to long it here, and then you have some nice easy stops. And if it stops you out, you just short it back down to like the previous range and call that the deviation. But overall, I think that if we do break down, we'll go a bit sideways in this zone. I don't think we're just going to start nuking off a cliff. But usually that's what happens. We have a nice big run up, nuked it a bit, nice liquidity grab, swing fail. Weekend structure was, pretty nasty to most degrees. A little bit upside over the weekend, and then nuked it off a cliff on Monday. Monday's nuking is not an uncommon feature. So I think in Bitcoin, I just want to see a gain on the daily. And yeah, overall, nothing too wild. Yeah, NQ and stuff's getting pushed down a little bit. Dollar's also going back down, which is good, right? We had that nasty little gain on the previous 1 hour when we closed the stream off, or we opened the stream, closed above, but didn't close back above the level. It's back below it. So we want to see some continued failure, potentially on the dollar. We don't want to see major gains of level. So upside still possible. We haven't lost any levels. What do you guys think? Any comments, concerns, suggestions?
I mean, when we start moving sideways like this, it's usually in preparation for a big move. So we just gotta wait and see which direction. Like if we start losing that block that you have marked out, then we know it's going down. If we start pumping up again and breaking above, say 28.6, 28.5, then we're most likely gonna see a move up to probably 29.30 easily. That's my opinion.
Is there any Fed meeting or something this week that's gonna move the price?
There is PCE inflation data on Friday, so
Okay. Because I realized the past couple months, every news moved the price somehow.
yeah.
So
But I mean, from the
it's not
previous
good.
meeting, we're just, from what I understand, we're expecting at least another one more rate hike this year, if we do get it, depending on the market situation. A lot of the banks are calling for no more, but we'll have to wait and see. So yeah. Yep, that's all I've
Yeah,
got to add. So yeah.
yeah. I got nothing really to add either. So until then, I mean, I guess just take it easy for now. I'm just relaxing, watching the market, watching the restriction. Nothing too crazy going on, you know.
Yep, yep.
Yep. So, well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate the big presentation there, Nasonic. Hopefully, we can get Adrian and Alarin on here too. I was kind of waiting for them because I know they wanted to do this too. But we'll figure something out and bring it back on because I kind of like these sessions that kind of go through a bunch of different stuff and it gives a perspective of like some of the fundamental research and fundamental analysis you can do on stuff, which really can translate in this case specifically also onto the charts. So lots of cool stuff. I'm really bullish on it, and thanks for it because I'll definitely be checking into those because they seem pretty solid. Definitely.